Fam, it's Kickstart. My name is Gardy. It's just after 9 o'clock. I have a guest back in studio. It's Stephanie Claussen. Good morning, Stephanie. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Stephanie, when was the last time you were in? It's been a while.
It was. We were just talking. I think your wife was still pregnant with your son. So 10, 11 months, you said? So.
10, 11 months ago.
Yeah.
So today you're here representing an organization. Can you let me know the organization and then, what you do with them?
Yeah, so I'm representing today Refuge for Women, Texas Gulf Coast. And so I'm the development director there at that location. And Refuge for Women is a national organization, and they just celebrated their 11th year this January. And we are going to be opening a program house in southern Brazoria County. And a program house is a 12-month program where a woman who's been trafficked or exploited comes and stays with us. She gets trauma counseling, grief counseling, addiction. If she's struggling with any addiction, we're partnered with Celebrate Recovery. And it's just a place for her to come and heal and receive, I guess love and guidance, and they walk through a pretty detailed curriculum of books to read about abuses, how to get past those abuses, how to find that healing. And it's all faith-based, and so it's all kind of concreted in the Word of God, so it's sustaining.
How common is human trafficking, I guess, in the world, in our country, and then specifically here at home for us?
Yeah, so January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so thank you for having me in this month. And actually, the Obama administration declared the month of January National Human Trafficking Awareness with January 11th as the actual day of awareness. Mm-hmm. But it is unfortunately common in our area. Houston, because we live in the greater Houston area, and because of where Houston sits on the I-10 corridor, so close to the Mexican border, we have one of the largest shipping channels, this huge international airport. And of course, Houston is just very multicultural. So, I know you go to Houston, I go to Houston, and it isn't really anything for us to walk down the street and see people of just all different kinds of ethnicities. And so because of that, it kind of created this, I guess, an unfortunate, great environment for trafficking to occur, because women can be trafficked from East Coast to West Coast, very simple. And because we have large sporting events, we host really large conferences. And so to meet the demand of trafficking, women are brought in to meet that demand.
This past year has been interesting. 2020 was interesting. We're in 2021, and it's going to be a good year, better than last.
It is.
But what did COVID and I guess the effects of it do for human trafficking? Do we even have the stats for that yet?
We don't. I know that Children at Risk is working on those stats. We do have them, and just speaking from women who are still in the life that we do outreach to, it really hasn't slowed down. Or slowed. Slown. Is that even a word? I don't know. It really hasn't slowed down. Yeah. And so because there's still a demand for sex. And so as long as there's that demand, there's still going to have to be a supply that meets that demand. So just because the mayor said, don't leave your house, that doesn't mean that, that demand just diminished or went away. So, yeah.
So one thing we were talking about earlier was school, because you mentioned you all had the opportunity to go do something at Santa Fe ISD. What did y'all go do?
Yeah, it was really exciting. Santa Fe ISD Transportation Department invited us in to show our film Groomed. And so we did a film about what does online grooming look like, how are traffickers making contact with our youth and our students. And it wasn't like, I think people kind of have this misconception of what grooming and trafficking is, where like Thank You Hollywood kind of makes us think that kids get snatched off the street. Now, do kidnappings still happen? Like, absolutely, be vigilant about the surroundings of your children. But what's happening is the vulnerabilities of our students that you and I had when we were younger, right? We're too fat, too thin, too short, too tall, too short, These are the same vulnerabilities that our students have, but they have this access to the cell phone, and they go and they put their vulnerabilities out on social media, and they're being contacted by people that they don't know. So Santa Fe ISD wanted us to come in because our bus drivers are oftentimes the first people who see our students when they leave their house. So it was just really great to go there and talk to them about, listen to conversations that are happening on the bus. If you see this young lady and she has multiple cell phones. Like, why does an 11-year-old have multiple cell phones? If you see her at the beginning of the year, and you know her family, because, Santa Fe is a small town, you kind of know everybody.
Right.
And you know that she has just a basic middle-class family, but she's carrying a $400 Michael Kors purse. Just different things like that to be looking out for. And we were well received. They had amazing questions, and it was just great to see a school district kind of lead that charge with wanting, to be more aware.
If somebody sees a change like that, so if a bus driver notices something that's a little bit off, what should they do at that point? Who do they talk to, or do they contact the student? Who do they talk to?
Yeah, well, I would definitely suggest that they talk to their superintendent or their supervisor. Just what we told them, make a note of the change. Say, like, I've noticed over the last 2 months that the conversation has turned a little bit more sexualized. She's dressing different. This is what's going on. Or it could be a he. I mean, we say women because that's a higher statistic, but it could be boys as well. And then take that to your superintendent or your supervisor and say, hey, I see this change of what's going on. So Texas passed a House bill, and I totally forgot what the House bill is, and I apologize, like four has a 4 and an 8 in it. Just saying that all superintendents in every ISD across the nation they have to take or know the signs of trafficking. And so the school district should already be on top of that. So if a bus driver comes to them and says, hey, I think this is going on, the school should already know what to do.
So y'all had that opportunity to go speak at Santa Fe ISD. Yeah. Is that something that y'all would be open to doing to other school districts?
Absolutely. So our heart is awareness and education, and because trafficking is a supply and demand issue. And so we have to talk about where does the demand come from and where does the supply come from. And we have hundreds of students sitting in our schools that are being groomed online. And we may think like, oh, no, that doesn't happen. But grooming doesn't happen just after 5 p.m. It's a 24-hour thing. And so we have students that are right now sitting in our schools that, are being groomed by somebody who they've never met. So our heart is just to bring this awareness to say, hey, teachers, this is what we need to look out for. Students, in your friend group, this is what you need to look out for. So we just wanted to try to curve that supply and to reach the students now to where they don't become the supply later. So
yes.
That's kind of our heart.
Okay, so the other thing that you had mentioned was the movie. Yeah. And y'all showed that to the ISD, the bus drivers?
Yes.
Okay, so let us know, how can I see the movie? How can somebody see it?
Yeah, so if you want to do a viewing, you go to our website at missionariesforhope.com. So yes, I'm the director of Refuge for Women, but I'm also a founder of Missionaries for Hope. And so kind of have my hand in a lot of different things. But Missionaries for Hope is now ran by my husband, Kirk. Hi, hon. And so he'll be doing all those presentations, and I'm just a support staff now. And then so what he's doing through Missionaries for Hope is kind of reaching the front end of education awareness of saying hey, how can we, knock this curve down? And then I, unfortunately, through Refuge for Women, are on the back end reaching women who have already been exploited in traffic. So he's trying to get them at the front end, and then we're trying to heal them in the back end. So
that's good.
Yeah. Trying.
Get them before, or ideally
yes.
that's ideal, but unfortunately, there's people that do need help and a place to stay. I think that's what you said. So the Refuge for Women is going to be opening and fully functional when? And I guess what are y'all going to be able to offer?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So Refuge for Women, Texas Gulf Coast, will be opening our doors on February 8th. So we just actually received our first application for a resident yesterday. And so it's becoming a reality. And it's almost, I equated it to kind of childbirth, where it's going to happen. And you're anxious, and you kind of don't know what's going to happen, and you're excited to see what's going to take place, but then you're still kind of nervous. But the program is a tried and true program. So, like I said, Refuge for Women, they've been around for 11 years, and they've worked out a lot of major kinks at the beginning. So then, what we're handed is this really phenomenal program that is just wonderful, healing and reconciling, and just an opportunity to point the women back to the kingdom. And if that's truly, at the end of the day, Jesus is the only one who heals. I'm just going to say that out loud. He's the only one who truly can bring about restoration and healing. Our job is to point the women to him. And we do that through therapy, counseling, Bible studies, book studies, mentorship, volunteering. It's just circling these women around a new community of people who love her, encourage her, motivate her, cry with her, laugh with her, fail with her. It's kind of like doing life. That's what we do with our friends. And so just providing this safe space for her to come and heal in. And I think about even when I was 13 and I lived on a farm, so I wanted to be a veterinarian. And that was my dream. And I thought that was amazing. And so I had this dream of being a veterinarian. And I look at these women that we serve, and they dreamed once too. They were 11 and 12, and they wanted to be a doctor, an astronaut, or a teacher. And then those dreams were taken from them. And so Refuge for Women provides this opportunity for the women to come in, be stable, have an opportunity to dream again of what do they really want to be, and allow a place for them to process that and see how we can help them achieve that.
I think you said it's a 12-month program?
It is. It's a 12-month program, and it's broken up in 3 phases. And so the first phase is kind of more stability, getting her in, meeting her needs. Does she need glasses? Does she need, tooth repair? Does she need tattoo removal? Just really meeting her very basic first needs, getting her on a schedule of eating. So a lot of women who come out of the life, are lacking some really, like their nutrition is very lacking, and kind of that garbage in, garbage out. Like, why is my face breaking out? Why is my hair oily? Why is this? Well, it's because of things that normally we're consuming. So if we're talking about her healing, it's a holistic healing. We want her physical body to be healed, her mental, her emotional, her spiritual body. So then phase 2 is more kind of diving into a lot more of the healing aspect of it, just really getting in deep. Phase 3 is then kind of preparing her for life outside of the house. So it's like parenting. We teach our kids budgeting and hygiene and, how to cook, how to clean, how to take care of themselves, hoping that when they leave our house, they're able to function, normally outside of our house. And it's the same with the program house, as we want to equip them with real life skills so they can operate outside of the house.
So you mentioned it's like parenting. So for me as a parent, my kids are still young. But when they leave, I know that they'd be able to come back if they have questions, if they need help with something. Is that something that y'all offer as well, those resources, if they have questions or need anything else?
Absolutely. So we are, so it's like so much excitement going on this year. So we do open our program house in February, but then we also are opening our transitional living house at the end of the year to be able to welcome in our graduates. So we have to be prepared that they're going to graduate. And so the transitional living is another year program where they can live under accountability of Refuge for Women and still have community. So they can still come back to the program house for barbecues or for different things. But then it's also introducing them to a community of overcomers that have already been where they're at, but not that they're just surviving in life, but they're thriving. So we've met amazing women in the Houston area. We have Kathy Givens, we have Becca Carey, and this wonderful overcomer, her name is Andy, of just providing this community around our residents, saying, hey, we literally have been where you've been, but this is where the Lord has taken us. And so it's just providing that community.
How important is it to have that community?
Oh, gosh, absolutely important, because what'll happen, just like with you and I, maybe our car will break down or our washer dryer, something will happen where we know we need a large amount of money. And then if you don't have people around you that are healthy going, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? Then you revert back to what you know best. And so that's when we have a lot of women that go back to the life because something has happened. They lost their job or something has happened, and they think, okay, if I just go back and have a couple dates and I can get the money. But when they're in a community, those people go, wait, what's going on? Hold on, let us help you. And so that is the idea of being in a community, is so that they don't revert back to what they think they're only good for. They can keep moving forward.
Okay, so if somebody wants to support what you're doing and they want to get involved, whether that's with money or time, are they able to, and how can they?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, Refuge for Women, Texas, Gulf Coast. You can also go to our website. It's www.rfwtxgulfcoast.org. You can reach out to me. You can give me a call. My number is 502-780-9790. 2644. So we do presentations at churches, small groups. We do need mentors. We need women that want to come and kind of do life with our residents. We need volunteers. And then, of course, we're a nonprofit, so we're a 501c3. So we do need financial support as well. And so we would love to talk with anybody. We're doing like a pantry drive and a toiletry drive. And so we just have all sorts of exciting stuff going on. Any kind of way you want to be involved, I can plug you in.
Okay, there was one other thing that I know that we had talked about last time that you were in, and it was just I think it was even talking about like Pearland or something like that, just driving down the street, and you can look at places and say like, hey, that just looks like a normal business, but it's not. How common is that? Just driving by places and it looks like this is a stand-up business, but what are some signs to look for if there's potential human trafficking or some illegal stuff going on there?
Yeah, definitely. And so that is also a big thing that really is important to us too, is community awareness. And so I live over in the Seabrook area, so anywhere between Seabrook and Friendswood, which includes this area as well, there's about 40 illicit massage parlors between Seabrook and Friendswood. And a lot of people are like, how does that happen? How is that allowed to be open? It's because a lot of people aren't aware that they exist. So when you're aware, all of a sudden you want to do something about it. So there's a really amazing organization called Love People Not Pixels, but they recently changed their name to Disrupt Demand. Something. I'm sorry, Joe, if you're listening. I'll get it down. You changed your name and now I'm confused. But what they do, their whole goal is to close illicit massage parlors. And so what you look for is if it has blacked out windows, if there's a lot of cameras outside the door, if there's a push button door, if you go into this massage parlor and there's an ATM in the lobby, or if they only service men. So we've done outreach and we walked in and they tell us we need to leave because we're women, so it's things like that, or like lower amounts for their services that kind of aren't normal if you like go to Massage Envy or Massage Heights or different things like that. So just be aware of those things. But of course, we don't want to cause this issue in our community where people are picketing and throwing rocks at windows because, right, that's not the right way to do it, because you have to understand there's women inside those businesses that have been exploited. Most of the women that work in illicit massage parlors come from Asia. And so maybe they were brought over here under lies, like maybe they were going to be nannies or maybe they were going to do something else. And when they got here, their paperwork was taken from them. And it's a shame thing in that culture of, they're being threatened, that maybe they'll tell their family what they're really doing. And it's a shame factor. So, yeah, do we want those places to be closed? Absolutely. But we also want to reach the women that are inside. And so there's wonderful other organizations. Providence Outreach Ministries here in this area does outreach to the women in the spas, just letting them know that outside of the spas, there are people that care about them if they want to stop doing what they're doing.
Okay, so what are some signs? It's kind of going back to, I guess, the movie Groomed and that side of it. So if you have kids, if you have people in your life and they're younger, what are some signs to look for if they are maybe going through that grooming process? Yeah,
so one major thing, right, we know our kids. We know their character. We know their sense of humor. So one thing to, as a parent or a guardian, to look out for is this shift in character. So maybe they came out into the living room and they spent time with the family. Now they're spending a lot of time in their room. Maybe you see a change in how they're dressing. A change in their friend group. So a lot of, like, my daughter has had friends for, 5, 6, 7 years. And so if you see that all of a sudden they used to have this friend group and then now they have this whole new friend group that maybe you've never met, maybe you don't know who they are, and maybe they're even older than your student. And it's also, seeing your child with even new stuff. Maybe a purse, shoes, nails.
Phone.
Phone. Maybe you didn't give them the phone. So it's like, excuse me, where do you have that phone from? Or maybe they have multiple phones. So it's one of those things of, just as parents, like, I am going to say this, parents, it is okay to parent. It is okay to ask your child, I take my daughter's phone and I go through her phone, not because I'm rude or I'm mean or I don't like her. It's because I go through her phone and I say, hey, who is this? What does this message mean? And she'll explain the message. And I'll say, how do you know this person? Oh, they're in my English class and da-da-da. Okay, and then I'll look through her photos. And I've even saying, like, Bailey, please don't take photos with your tongue sticking out or these kind of things because it can be misconstrued as provocative. And I'm like, you're better than that. And then, and then I hand her phone back to her and I'm like, good job. And it's okay that I bought that cell phone, I pay for the bill, and I allow her to use it. And she gets all bent about it and she rolls her eyes. But guess what? Like, what if something was really going on and I never caught on to it? And a year from now, maybe she goes missing or something happens. But even with our daughter who knows about trafficking and knows about grooming, she gets approached online probably 3 or 4 times a week on social media and like Instagram and Snapchat, of people asking for nude photos, people asking to video chat with her. And this is Bailey.
Just random, people.
Oh gosh. So she'll take it, like a screenshot of it. She walks into the living room and she's like, Mom, this guy sent me a message asking for nude photos. And I'm like, okay, I'm assuming you didn't send them. She's like, no, I didn't. And so I'm like, okay. But we use those snaps or those screenshots in our training, because we kind of use Bailey. We've asked her her approval. We've used her as kind of like, we took pictures off her Snapchat and we're like, hey, this is Bailey. She's a normal girl, comes from a normal family. And then we have the actual screenshots of people asking for nude photos. And then there's a picture of Kirk and Bailey and I at the end of the screen. And we're like, this is our daughter.
Wow.
So just because we know about it and she knows about it doesn't mean it stops. So what about that young lady who doesn't know what to do? And she's in her room and she's being sent photos that she didn't ask for, or she's being threatened online. And it's just really important, parents, just to create this safe space in your house where you tell your student, like, we know what's going on. We know what culture we're living in. And we want to let you know that it's not your fault if someone sends you an unwanted photo. It is not your fault. You know, come to us. We want to talk to you about it. Because when she receives that in her room, or when he receives that, then they can come out and be like, I don't know what to do with this. And you have this opportunity to talk to your student and say, hey, it's not your fault. You know, let's erase it. Let's block that person's account. You know, I even tell parents report it to Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram of, unwanted contact between your student. And it's just creating this atmosphere in your house where your student can come to you and say, hey, I have a question, or hey, I've even done something wrong. I've sent a photo, and that's why we tell Bailey, like, don't send nude photos. We're like, let's just get that out. Like, there's no reason to send a nude photo. But, parents, that's what our students are doing, because that's what this culture is telling them is acceptable. And so if your student has done that, then being able to have this conversation with them and saying, like, hey, we need to talk about this. It's uncomfortable and it's horrible and it makes you feel awful. But at the end of the day, your student's going to walk away and go, man, my parents really care about me, and I can come and talk to them.
Okay, so earlier you talked about, I was asking you about the effects of COVID and how that affects, human trafficking. You said as long as there's the demand, there's going to be, some kind of supply. Yeah. So I can imagine, guys, girls, whoever growing up, like you said, they don't ever imagine, like, I'm going to go and partake in human trafficking. Like, so like a guy, like, I'm going to have to buy sex, right? Yeah. How do they end up getting to that point where they find themselves, I guess, bold enough or to be able to do that?
Well, it's an escalation dynamic, and so this is something that Love People Not Pixels, and I'm sorry, I need to know their new name. I'm sorry, Joe. This is something that they kind of figured out so it's like a drug. Somebody doesn't wake up and just start doing meth. It's just this progression of use that happens, and so with trafficking, we see that the common factor is pornography. And so what happens is that the person first gets introduced to maybe like softcore. Well, that's not enough, right? So then they start doing hardcore. Well, that becomes not enough. And so they start doing like webcams and they're having some type of interaction with a person. Well, that's not enough. So then they go to a strip club, because in that they're actually sitting with somebody right in front of their face. That's not enough. Then they go to illicit massage parlors so they can actually be touched. Well, that's not enough. And so where they find themselves is out on the street purchasing a person. And so we see this escalation dynamic of where it starts at, because a man just doesn't wake up one day and go, I think I'm going to purchase somebody. There's a brokenness that happens in the buyer too, that we have to recognize. And it's hard to say, like, man, we need to pray and we really need to speak life into the buyer, because oftentimes we want to view a buyer as being like gross and vile and you're the problem. But I really believe that if we want to look at men and say, okay, men, you're the problem, we can also look at men and say, but you can also be the solution. So men in our churches, husbands, brothers, stand up against viewing pornography in the culture that says that it's acceptable, or like boys will be boys. Well, if we read the Bible, it says also, like, cast aside childish behaviors. So it's one of these things of like, we really need to educate our young men that, you know, pornography is really a false depiction of a relationship. Like, that is not going to happen in your relationship, but they seek it because it's readily available. And so that's where the demand comes from, is the consumption of pornography and then wanting more until you buy a person.
So organizations like Love People Not Pixels, is that what they do? Work with the men to be able to break that or get away?
They
get away from that?
They have this really amazing program. So they're partnered with law enforcement, and so when law enforcement does buyer stings and they go and they arrest a bunch of buyers, they Love People Not Pixels again. I'm sorry. They go out and meet the buyer, like literally standing there in handcuffs, and they meet the buyer and they see him to his face. They tell him about a program. They have this program that the buyer can walk through that could potentially lower his fines or different things like that through the court system. But he has to complete the program. And even through COVID last year, I believe Joe said that they had 4 graduates through this program. So that's 4 men, right? Let's celebrate that. That's 4 men that hopefully will never buy sex again. So they are really on the side of combating and bringing awareness to the pornography aspect and the buyer side of it.
Okay, so here's a question. This is from Linda. Linda, thank you for asking, and feel free to share this out. And if you're watching on Facebook or listening on KHEAradio.com or 99.5 FM, you can always go to our social medias and ask questions there, and we'll get those asked. Linda said, could you give the website info one more time? She was trying to look up the site, and I think she pulled up the wrong one. So what's the website?
Yeah, so for Refuge for Women, it's going to be www.rfwtxgulfcoast.org. And that should pull up our Refuge for Women Texas Gulf Coast location. And on there, you can fill out a volunteer application. We're also doing room sponsorships, so you can sponsor a room in our house and just kind of see what we're about. There's some good survivor stories on there of other women who've come through our Refuge for Women program, and it's really encouraging.
And then missionaries for hope.com.
Missionaries for hope.com. Yeah.
That's how you can access the movie. Grim.
Yeah.
Is there plans for another one? I think you even said there's some exciting news about even a festival or something coming up. What's going on?
It is really exciting. So I think just as humans, we like recognition, and we put a lot of work into that film. It was really emotional to make, and then it was really just time consuming to edit. And so we submitted it to the Content 2020 Film Festival. And so it's a Christian film festival, and it's happening in Dallas. And we got nominated for 3 awards. We got nominated for Justice Award, Best Original Music, and Young Filmographer. So we're really excited for Travis, who's the one who edited it and filmed it, and really hoping he gets an award for at least that Young Filmographer. So we'll be traveling to Dallas the first week of February to see kind of what happens.
What's Travis up to now?
Oh my gosh, he is so awesome. So he'll actually be here. So we're going to meet him in Dallas, and then he's going to drive back with us, and then he's just going to spend time in this area. And he really wants to reach out to anti-trafficking organizations and do maybe a short video clip for them or take professional headshots. And so he just really wants to dive in. He's 20 years old now, and he's in his 2nd year of college. And he first was going to be a doctor. And I even told him, I'm like, that's a great idea, but I don't think so. I don't think that's what the Lord has for you, because his eye, the Lord has given him, such a talent of just editing and filming. And so he is now he's going to get a computer science degree with some type of video something. I can't remember.
So he could play a doctor in one of his films.
He could. He's like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on television. So yeah, I'm really excited for him, because it's really not common, and this is the sad part, to see an 18, 19-year-old gentleman who really wants to make a huge impact in this lane. And so it's really encouraging, and I hope that he also encourages other young men his age to stand up against it as well.
All right, so this is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name's Gardy. I'm talking with Stephanie Claussen. She's the developmental director at the Refuge for Women. It's going to be opening February 8th in Brazoria County.
Yes, southern Brazoria County, between kind of like Lake Jackson, Angleton area. So
that's a good area.
It is a good area.
Are you familiar with that area?
I am not.
But you're getting familiar with it, right?
I'm getting familiar. Someone made a joke, and they're like, yeah, you just go down this road, and then you take a left on, and you go that way. And then when you get to this way, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what's the actual name of the road? And they're like, no, the road is named that way and this way. And I thought, this is an adventure. So yeah, there's roads named that way and this way.
There is. Yeah.
Yes, there is. And that
this way and that way.
That was really confusing because I'm like,
hilarious.
no, I really need the name of the street. They're like, no,
that's the name of the street.
That is the name of the street.
It is called this way.
It is, but I'll be honest with you, I was a little concerned about the house being in southern Brazoria County because in order for the house to be successful, it really has to have a community that surrounds it with the volunteers, with the financial support. And I was like, oh my gosh, southern Brazoria County has a lot of farmland. Like, do people even know about trafficking? And I'm telling you, man, that Lake Jackson area has just loved us like I've never seen before. And so I'm just really proud of them.
Yeah. Well, so whenever you drive through Angleton, make sure you stop at Lunacy Taco Shack.
Lunacy Taco Shack. What road is that on?
You know what? I'm going to let you find Lunacy Taco Shack. It's on this way. I'm just kidding. I can tell you, but it's Lunacy Taco Shack in Angleton.
Okay, I'm going to do it. That sounds
All
good.
right. So we're just about out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to remind? I guess you can remind people everything. How can they support?
They can support. Gosh, there's so many ways to jump in. And I'm telling you, even if what I'm saying doesn't interest you and you want to look at another anti-trafficking organization, there are so many amazing ones out here. Get connected. Get educated. Reach out if you have any questions. You can reach out to us through our Missionaries for Hope or through our Refuge for Women. Because if you're feeling like this is a calling on your life and you want to make an impact, I want to be able to connect you where you're best suited to serve. So if it's not aftercare and you want to do more of like preventative or you want to do outreach, I want to connect you with organizations that do that because I want you to be functional in your calling. So, so be praying for Refuge for Women as we open up that first week in February and receive our first residents. Reach out to us on Missionaries for Hope about seeing Groomed. We're going to start having like some Zoom presentations of the film as well. So just be looking out for us. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. You can just type in our names and you'll be able to find us. So I look forward to connecting with anybody who reaches out, and I would love to see you just be a part of this movement.
Thank you for hanging out today and joining.
Absolutely. I love it. I always love coming in here, so it's enjoyable.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. One quick reminder, tomorrow at Watergrove Event Venue, there's going to be a wedding and special event, awesome thing from 9 to 5 tomorrow, and you are invited to go check it out. So if anybody's planning a wedding or renewing their vows or wants to have a nice place to have an event, go check it out there. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.
Awesome.
All right, Facebook, y'all be blessed. Have a good day.